Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where we talk with top leaders about effective strategies that inspire success. We're really excited to have this podcast be ranked the fourth best strategic planning podcast. Thank you so much, listeners, for everyone who has been following us over the years. And with that, we also are excited to talk about our 40 Strategy Growth Workshops. To learn more, go to 40strategy.com to learn more about that information. Very excited today to have our guest, J Cox. He is very seasoned, and I love the amount of activity he does. When we had our prep call here, this is a person you're going to see has a ton of energy. He has flipped personally over 500 homes, no small task. And beyond that, he helps give guidance and advice to thousands of other investors as well. Jay, welcome to the Measure Success podcast.
Carl, thank you so much for inviting me to come along and talk about the topic that I'm so passionate about, that being private money and private lending for real estate. And the reason I'm so excited about it is because this is the number one strategy that we started using all the way back in time to fund our deals. And you know what, Carl, what is so interesting is, number one, I've never missed out on a deal since 2009 for not having the funding. And secondly, guess what? We get to make the rules. We are our own underwriter. We never ask for money. You know, since 2009, I've never asked anybody for money. I've never applied for a mortgage. I've never had my credit score pulled. And so as a result, this way of using private money for real estate deals, really, as the real estate investor, it puts you in the driver's seat of your business.
Hey, Jay, 2009, if I recall, was not a very friendly time in real estate.
It was not a friendly time, but I tell you what, in a matter of about 2 weeks of it being as stressful as I've ever been stressed out in my life in business, to being the most free and happy in my business, it was only about a 2-week turn. Had all those foreclosures going on, and the banks weren't lending money. And you know what? When I learned about private money, Carl, that first 12 months that I learned about private money and started using private money to fund my deals, our business tripled in 2009 in the midst of the chaos, because I had been blessed to find a new avenue of funding. And, you know, I had a really big problem very, very quickly. I had more money than I could use. The money was chasing me instead of me chasing the money. And I can't wait to share the story.
Okay, so let's just start out for once again. So you shared right beforehand an interesting story that you've had with helping people out, or you talked about a condo and how quickly it turned and moved. Give an example. What you just had a recent one. Tell us about that. It was like a 2-week event, and how quickly you're able to ultimately turn it and sell it and for a profit. So just go through that example.
Sure. Well, the reason this deal happened was because I had private money on the ready to close very, very quickly. You know, traditional financing, how long is it going to take you to close on a real estate deal? And I'm talking single family houses here. What's it going to take? 4 weeks, 45 days? You got a long-term relationship, maybe 3 weeks. So here's what happened. We were contacted by a owner of a oceanfront condominium here in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. And the owner, the seller of this condominium, luxury condominium, oceanfront, you stand in the living room, you look out, and you look like you're on a cruise ship looking out over the Atlantic Ocean. Windows, beautiful views in every room, living room, bedrooms, etc. And so the owner contacted us through our marketing. So talking to that owner, we found out they had 3 really, really big motivations. Number one, it was an inherited property. Number two, the owner was the son, and he lived out of state in South Carolina. I'm in North Carolina. And number three, the property was going to the foreclosure courthouse steps for sale in 2 weeks of him contacting us. So if this is going to happen, I mean, it's got to happen fast, right? So here are the numbers. We bought the condominium for $480,000. We closed in 7 days from the time of being contacted by the owner of that property. You're not going to close in 7 days unless you've got all the cash or you've got private money ready to be funded, right away. So we closed in 7 days, up the foreclosure, of course, because we bought the property, paid $480,000 cash. The renovation rehab was a whopping $12,000. Of course, I say that in tongue in cheek. Most of my rehabs on single family houses are between $50,000 and $60,000. So the renovation was nothing more than interior paint, and a little bit of sheetrock repair. It came with luxury, beautiful furniture, totally furnished. Bought it for $480, renovated for $12,000, and then sold it for $618,000. I was in and out in less than 6 weeks. The point of that story is private money made that deal possible and made that deal happen. Without the private money ready to close, would not have happened. And as I share that story, Carl, that brings to mind a very, very important lesson. I don't know if you've ever heard this quote or this phrase with the guru standing on stage talking to new real estate investors, and they'll say something to the effect of, just get the deal under contract, the money will show up. You ever heard that? That's the most stupid, the most stupid thing in my life I ever heard of. Where's the money going to show up? It's like, is there going to be a drone that delivers a box full of money and drops it on your front porch, on your front, say, oh, you got a deal under contract, here's some money? Or does money have legs that are running around looking for deals? That's the most asinine, insane thing I ever heard in my life. No, the money comes first. So that's what I practice. That's what I teach. That's what I coach. There's always going to be deals, right? So let's stop and think about it. If I had gotten that deal under contract for $480,000, now I'm going to go look for money. You think I could have closed it in less than in 7 days? Listen, here's a writer downer. Desperation's got a smell to it. And potential private lenders know when you're desperate. And if you're talking about a deal that you got under contract, and now you're talking about needing funding, or even, talking with a potential private lender, you're sounding desperate. So instead, one way that we never ask for money, and this is such a big secret sauce, we separate the conversations with a new potential private lender between the opportunity and the program to become involved as a private lender, and then later having a deal for them to fund. You see, I've got 47 private lenders right now, individuals funding our real estate deals. And what's interesting, Carl, is not one of those 47 people ever heard about private money. None of them ever heard about self-directed IRAs until I did what? Until I put on my teacher hat, which says private money teacher. So you see, we separate the activity of exposing and teaching the private money opportunity and then having a deal to fund. I got 47 private lenders, and none of them ever heard about it until I taught them about the opportunity. And what's fun is some of those 47 private lenders are accredited investors, but what's funny? They don't even know they're accredited investors because they don't even know what an accredited investor is, because this whole world was brand new to them until we exposed it to them and taught them about it.
Fascinating. Okay, so let's go down that extra path here, right? So what does that really mean to be a private lender? Put it in just real basic common terms. How does a individual become, quote unquote, a private lender?
A private lender is an ordinary person, just like you or me. They're not sophisticated, and they loan money to us real estate investors, either from their investment capital, just liquid funds that they're not happy with. Maybe their funds are in a CD, certificate of deposit at the local bank, earning a whopping 2.75%, maybe 3%. Year and a half ago, they could have gotten 5.5%. It's coming down. So they're using their investment capital, liquid funds, to get a higher rate of return safely and securely, or they're using their retirement funds that they currently have that they're not happy with. Maybe they've got retirement funds in a 401k that they started at a previous employer. And maybe it's still there and it's in the stock market and they don't like the volatility. So my private lenders are ordinary people. They're school teachers, they're civil service workers, they're retired law enforcement people. They are regular people, just like you and me, that would love to have a higher rate of return that's safe and secure. And so who's a private lender? Ordinary person looking for a higher rate of return to use either their investment capital and or retirement funds.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this more, correctly, is you are really matching people who have investments, have money, so to speak, right? They might have in their 401k, they might have it in their just general investments, and they are working with you to match a deal with their funding. Is
That's
that
right.
correct?
That's
Okay.
it. That's simple. That's it.
And then, okay, so if I may ask, you don't have to tell me, but what's the split in the return for the investor and for you all? Because you have to get paid for matching up and doing the work, et cetera,
Of
to help
course.
match things up. So help me understand that.
Yeah. Well, there is no split. This is not
Okay.
joint venturing. The private
Okay.
lender is the bank. So they get a straight 8%. I've been paying my private lenders 8% since February 2009. They got 8% during COVID. And they get 8% today, and there's no points, there's no origination fees, paid 8%. And you know what that triggers, Carl, is the next question that I hear all the time. People say, Jay, how in the world are you still paying your private lenders the same thing you did in 2009? And the market's going up and interest rates are going down, interest rates up, interest rates down. How are you paying them all well, there's two answers to that question. First of all, 8% is a whole lot more money than they can get at the local bank, regardless of what interest rates are. A year and a half ago, you gotten 5.25%. Well, 8% is a lot more than 5.25%. And it's not unsecured money. All their loans are backed by real estate. The promissory notes are collateralized by either a deed of trust or a mortgage, depending on the state that you're in. So they love the rate. It's more money than they're going to get in the local bank. And why else do I pay them 8%? Because I make the rules, right? You see, that's something that's so different from traditional thinking. A lot of people ask me all the time, Carl, they say, Jay, how do I start raising capital? What's the first thing I need to do to start raising capital? And the answer is the first thing you need to do is own the real estate between your ears. Now, what I mean by that is having the right mindset. So for years, the only thing I knew to do to get funding for my deals is go to the local bank, get on my hands and knees and say, please fund my deal. And, the banker made me pull up my skirt, made me show all my personal assets, made me do my financial statement, pull my credit score. They did appraisals. Well, that's the only thing I knew to do until they cut me off with no notice. So then I had to find a better and quicker way to fund my deals. That was January 2009. And so I learned about this world of private money, and boy, I had to get my mindset right, because when you got your mindset right, you're not asking, begging, chasing, selling, persuading, trying to talk anybody and anything. Instead of asking for a mortgage, you're offering an opportunity. And when you offer an opportunity, particularly to people that have never heard about this world, they are excited. I mean, where else can ordinary people get these kinds of rates of return safely and securely, backed by real estate at a very, very conservative loan to value? I don't borrow more than 75% on single family houses, more than 75% of the after repaired value. Now, I did not say 75% of the purchase price. That's stinking thinking right there. I'm talking 75% of the after repaired value. So you see, when I buy a distressed property, that's why I always get to bring home a big check every time I buy. I mean, who wants to get paid to buy properties and take none of your own money to the closing table, but you're still creating win-win scenarios and everybody's protected? For example, let's say I'm buying a house with an after repaired value of $200,000. You still can here in Eastern North Carolina, believe it or not, with an after repaired value of $200,000. Well, let's say it needs $30,000 of rehab. I'll buy that house for $100,000 because it needs renovation. It's distressed. I'll buy for $100,000 with private money. But if I can borrow up to 75% of the after repaired value, that means I can borrow $150,000 up front of the private lender, wire that $150,000 into the closing agent's trust account, and now I have $100,000 go to the seller. Now I'm bringing home a check for $50,000. That's called excess cash to close. Without taking any of my own money to the closing table, I'll take $30,000 of that $50,000 and rehab the house. Keep $20,000 in my pocket for whatever I want to do. I mean, it's a beautiful cash flow thing. Let's see, the private lender needs monthly payments. You don't have to pay monthly payments unless the private lender needs it to supplement their income. So let me ask you a question. If I'm making the private lender monthly payments and I'm bringing home a $50,000 excess cash at closing because I borrowed more than I needed to buy the house, whose money am I using to make their monthly payments? Don't you love that program?
Okay. So you have the skeptical person who's listening to you right now, Jay, right? You've been doing this a while.
They should be skeptical if they've never been
Right.
exposed to this world, because it sounds too good to be true.
Right. How, um, How do you overcome those obstacles? Once again, you've obviously gained trust and a fair amount of investors through this process. And, what happens if, let me just ask you questions, where things sometimes run in trouble for anyone, a bank, is when all of a sudden a bunch of people are saying they want their money back at the same time. So what happens in that situation for you? Let's say you have 20% of your investors and they're like, hey, we want our money back. Well, how does that work? Right. If that makes sense. They're like, hey, we're out of this. We don't want to get in real estate anymore. We're scared. I'm sure I've got to imagine you've had times where people had expressed being concerned, if that makes sense, about where their money is and where their money isn't because of the changes of interest rates or perceived increases or decreases in real estate. How does that work for them and to help potentially get their money out? So how do those terms work with you in terms of being able to get the principal out if they're just said they're out?
Sure. That's a great question, and there's more than one answer. It's like John Maxwell told me one-on-one 2 years ago. John Maxwell said, Jay, there's not only one solution to every problem, there's multiple solutions to every problem or scenario. We're not talking about a problem here. So, first of all, let me answer your question with what has happened ever since 2009 in the past 16 years that I've been borrowing private money. How many people have wanted their money back? Right. And actually, I put in the promissory note, I give them a way out with no penalty. Say, look, here's a 90-day call option. You want your money back anytime? All you do is give me notice. You need your money back. You've had an emergency come up, whatever reason. You just tell me you need your money back. Give me 90 days. I'll give you money back. Truth be told, I don't need 90 days. I can do it in 7 days and give them their money back. I've had two. I've had two notes in all these years, 16 years, of people that needed their money back. And both of them were small notes. In fact, both of them were only $30,000 notes. I don't use $30,000 to buy a house. We'll use that for rehabbing money in second position, junior lien. And so they had a medical issue. They needed their money back, gave their money back. So the takeaway on that story is private lenders don't want their money back. They never want their money back. In fact, when I've got a new private lender and I'm getting ready to cash out the first deal, I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, we are selling the property at 4055 Country Club Road, and you're going to be receiving a payoff check of your principal loan amount from the real estate attorney, the buyers, and we're going to send you the interim interest that's accrued since your last payment. And invariably they'll say, Jay, can't you just keep the money? And they don't want the money back. The reason they don't want their money back is because when they get their money back, they're not making any money on their money, right? But let's just suppose that people want their money back. Let's say they get scared to death or whatever, and they run on the bank. They are the bank, right? So they want their money back. Well, it's that reason that we don't borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value. So if the market starts coming down quickly or they need to get their money back, well, if they want their money back and I don't have the house sold, I'm simply going to replace their money with another private lender's money because there's more money. I mean, you start raising private money, attracting private money without chasing money, quickly you're going to have a problem. You're going to have more money than you know what to do with. There's more money than there are deals, period. Prior to COVID, $18 trillion in cash sitting on the sidelines. Today, $31 trillion in cash looking for a home, pun intended. $31 trillion. People they don't know what to do with their money. And it's my moral and ethical responsibility to relieve them of their problem and show them where they can put their money. So if you're not going to borrow more than 75% of the after repaired value, you got that house sitting out there. If they want the money back, then you may say, well, Jay, what if I don't have any other private money to replace their private money? Well, sell the house. You can discount and sell the house and still pay off your private lender. Now, you're not going to make your money that you were looking to make, but you can still take care of your private lender because they've got that deed of trust or their mortgage, and you can't sell it without giving the new buyer clear title And the only way the new buyer is going to get clear title is if your private lender gets paid off. So everybody's made whole and taken care of.
I like it. And I like it how you've gone through these different scenarios. You have got, it appears you have conservatism built into it, which creates the opportunity, right, for people to be able to get out, which is great. And it's good to know that, once again, when people are happy with a certain interest rate, they'll typically go in and keep using that. All right. So I always like to ask a couple other questions as part of the Measure Success podcast. And as we get near the wrap up point here, how are you measuring success for your clients?
That's a great question. How am I measuring success from my client? Well, I got more than one kind of client. One client is who we've been talking about, my private lenders. My other clients, who I have a whole lot more of in the thousands, are other real estate investors that are raising and using private money that I've coached just like I do. So how do I measure my private lender's success? They get paid what they expected to get paid on time. It's that simple, right? They get paid. And that brings up a good point, Carl. Ever since 2009, when I started using private money, every one of my private lenders have gotten 100% of the interest that they were expecting. Why is that? Why is that? It's because of the conservative loan to value, not over leveraging the properties, not borrowing more than 75% of the after repaired value on those single family homes and properties. So my private lender success are getting what they expected on time. My coaching clients, other real estate investors, learning how to use private money, I measure their success by them achieving what they wanted their life to look like before we started working together. I'm thinking about Eric and Erica Carmadale out in Poplarville, Mississippi. They are in their late 30s, and Eric was working for the railroad full time, driving 1 hour each way twice a day, working for the railroad. They came to me, we started working together, and within 7 months retired from the railroad. And Erica was able to homeschool their children. They got a passel of children to be only in their 30s, I think like 5 kids. And so now Eric is living his dream. Eric is living their dream. The handcuffs are off from the day job. And now Eric's president of Business Networking International. He's assistant director of the local Rotary Club district. He's all about a servant. So now he has all many ways to serve and live out his life. I think about Crystal Baker. Crystal Baker lives up in Virginia. She was a multi-six-figure income earner, occupational therapist, overseeing multiple clinics, making a lot of money. And she promised herself she'd never take her kids through fast food drive-through. And a short while ago at 9 o'clock at night, she was going through the fast food drive-through, broke her promise that she'd never have to pay her or have to give her kids fast food. She was working over 12 hours a day, making a lot of money and totally miserable. We started working together in 9 months. She retired from being an occupational therapist to a full-time real estate investor. And then she went to homeschooling her kids. And now, as a matter of fact, she's living her passion by helping me coach other real estate investors on how we do what we do. So how do I measure success from my clients? That they are achieving what they wanted to achieve, and I'm helping them be even happier than they were before.
So you've got if you don't mind me saying, a Zig Ziglar type speaking capability. I love it. He was one of my automobile university where I learned from for many years. I remember, I'll never forget that in the mid 90s, a gentleman I was working with gave me this. He was really disappointed, Jay, with who I was. This college student being an intern for his firm. He was working his home, which was really uncommon back then. And he said, Carl, I need you to listen to these Zig Ziglar tapes because Zig Ziglar is going to, just listen. And it changed my life. It really changed how I think. It changed the perspective around it. And I love it because you have these, that's an ultimate, for me, that's an ultimate compliment, saying you sound and you have the passion around like a Zig Ziglar. So I'm curious for you, what type of habits do you do consistently so you can be who you are today?
That's a great question. So one habit that I have is before I get out of my bed every morning, I listen to a 15-minute meditation from an app called Abide, Abide, Abide. I love Abide. different Christian, godly, spiritual meditation that sets my trajectory and my mindset before I even get out of bed. And so that's how my first 15 minutes starts before putting my feet on the floor. And then I put my shorts and my t-shirt on and I go brush my teeth. And then I get outside just as fast as I can to get natural daylight in my eyes because that keeps my natural circadian rhythm in the rhythm it should be. And so what do? I take a walk. I don't go exercise yet. I just take a walk and I don't take my phone. I don't listen to music. I don't listen to messages. I take a 5 minute walk away from my home down towards the water. And then I bring a 5 minute walk back. And the entire time I'm looking up in the sky and being grateful and identifying at least three things that I'm grateful for. And as I look up into that sky, I'm just taking and I'm beholding God's creation and what it is that I'm all blessed with and all this beauty that I am surrounded with. And so a practice of gratefulness and gratitude in those 10 minutes of being outside, even if it's raining, I want to get on the front porch and get natural daylight in my eyes. And so then I go to the coffee pot and I pour myself a cup of coffee with 2 shots of espresso, heavy cream, steamed, and I drink that with my wife. And then I go down to Elite Rehab Center. And I don't have rehab, but I've got a trainer that I work out with for 30 minutes on lifting weights. And then I come back home and I'm off to the day. Another very, very important habit I learned from Jack Canfield. Now, Jack Canfield is the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series with Mark Victor Hansen. And Jack Canfield has come out with a book that's just absolutely phenomenal. It's called The Success Principles. The Success Principles. And in Jack Canfield's book, there are 65 success principles. And one of his success principles is called the Rule of Five. The Rule of Five. And the way the Rule of Five works is before you finish your work day, you identify 5 things that you're going to do the next day that will move the lever the most and help you just really accomplish something very, very meaningful. So identify those 5 things. And then I add that to my calendar because I practice and preach successes are scheduled. I don't believe in to-do lists. I don't believe in to-do lists. If it's important enough to be on a to-do list, it's important enough to be on your calendar and scheduled. So successes are scheduled. So between starting my day the way I described and then finishing the day with the Rule of Five and identifying what's happening tomorrow, then here we are starting the day right and ending the day right.
Love it. I love your passion. I love it. I think one of the things for those who are listening is regardless of what you do, regardless if you're in real estate or you're nursing or you're teaching or whether you're a coach, an entrepreneur, regardless of what your belief system is, what Jay just talked about, these type of habits are the type of habits that consistently the type of people who have success are doing regularly. And Jay, I love it how you're walking your talk, you're doing it consistently. It's because those little things allow us to do the big things, right? And I love it how you share about that, the passion around it, because it's you have to daily. These are the type of things we have to do consistently and daily because it's so easy, right, to get back into who we might potentially be, right? Our natural selves, so to speak. And so to bring that daily bread, so to speak, daily encouragement, into living and breathing and doing great things, I think is absolutely amazing. Jay, let's see here. One additional thing. So how now do you ultimately measure success in your personal life?
My level of joy. My level of joy. And so now you see there's a difference between, so here's the thing. We all have stressful times. I had a stressful morning. I had a stressful morning before you and I even jumped on right here on the boat. I mean, I was supposed to have an email from me, written by me, sent out to thousands of people that follow me by one of my team members. And it didn't happen. It didn't happen. And so things happen that we didn't anticipate to happen. But another success principle that I learned from Jack Canfield is success principle number 1. And that is be 100% responsible for everything that happens in your life, whether you directly created it or caused it to happen or not. And the success principle and formula is E plus R equals O. And so the E stands for the event that happened in your life. The event. What happened? The R stands for your response to the event. And the O stands for the outcome that you are now experiencing. Event plus response equals outcome. So, unfortunately, a lot of people have what I call the victim mentality. And when someone has the victim mentality, they're living by a different formula. The formula they're living by is E equals O. They believe, and by the way, we get to choose what we believe, by the way. Most people don't think they can, but we get to choose what we believe. And so they believe that the event, whatever it is that happened in their life, determines the outcome of what they're experiencing. But what Jack Canfield brings out in his book is that you may not have been responsible for the event that happened in your life. I got a dear friend, David. His father died when he was 7 years old. He had nothing to do with his father dying when he was 7 years old. But throughout his life, that was his crutch and his excuse for not achieving success and having a happy life. Well, what do you expect? I'm the kid that my dad died at 7 years old. I shouldn't be getting good grades. Well, what do you expect? Yeah, I'm 100 pounds overweight. My dad died when I was 7 years old. He was a victim. But when David realized that he is 100% responsible for the response to the event, then guess what? That determines our outcome. So since we can be, now that's called the victor mentality. And so since we can be 100% responsible to choose whatever response we want to whatever event happens, we get to be a part of determining the outcome that we're experiencing. How do I measure success, Carl? Am I responding to every event in my life in the appropriate way to have a joyous outcome?
Wonderful answer. How can people, okay. One more thing, just one book recommendation that you tell our audience to read.
My book or another book?
Well, another book. And by the way, Jay, of course, you got to get me a copy, send me a copy of your book, because I try to get as many of our signed copy of people here. So that's one thing. But secondly, now your book, what is a book that you recommend commonly to others? That's not
in addition to the success principles, to the success principles by Jack Canfield, the book I recommend is the book that changed my life when I was 24 years old. I was in a very dark place. I went over 1 year when I was 24 years old. I got drunk every night, didn't know who I was, had to black out to go to sleep, had no friends, no relationship with God. My family wouldn't even let me stay with them when I came home to visit at 24 years old. And I said, you know what? There might be a better way than what I'm doing. And so for the first time in my life, Carl, I found my way to the bookstore in the self-improvement section. I thought to myself, Jay, you need some improvement. And since I didn't have a relationship with God, the Bible was not calling me at that time. And so I went there. And so I came across this book, and the name of the book is University of Success. And I said, you know, Jay, you've already got a 4-year degree and you're living like Satan. You need to go to a different university than the one you went to. So I bought that book, University of Success. It's by Og Mandino, and that book changed my life. It's called University of Success because it's broken down in different semesters as you get your degree in success. And he has all these wonderful contributing authors that in that time were very, very popular. It's published in 1982 or 83, and it's still in publication, University of Success by Og Mandino.
Love it. Jay, how can people connect and learn more about what you're doing?
Well, the biggest and easiest way and most efficient way to connect with me is to let me give you a gift. If you are listening to this show, this episode, I'd love to give you a gift. And that is my national best-selling book called Where to Get the Money Now. Subtitle, How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Hard Money Lenders or any kind of institutional money. This is not an ebook. This is actually a real book. I'll autograph it. I'll ship it to you. Did you know the United States Postal Service is actually still in business? So I'll send it to you priority mail. I'll autograph it. It's $20 on Amazon, but don't spend $20. Let me give it to you. All you do is just cover shipping and handling. And you can pick up the book at www.jayconner, and I'm an ER, not an OR. So JAYCONNER.com /book. Again, that's Jay Conner, JayConner.com/book. I'm even going to include 2 tickets valued at $3,000 to my upcoming private money conference. And so I'll give you all the information about that. And that'll be another gift for you as well. Love to autograph it and rush it right out to you. Where to get the money now?
Jay, it's been a pleasure to have you on the Measure Success podcast today.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you so much for having me, and God bless you.
To everyone else who's listening, I hope Jay's just both parts of what he's one is helping out with a different way to how to change your life through real estate. And he has done it non-traditional. It's a different approach, but he has clearly a proven process. He coaches other people how to do it. I encourage you to learn more about what he's doing, and definitely take the book, Opportunity Assigned book. I think that's the easy button. And I also hope you've been inspired by him at a minimum. I love people who, like Jay, have gone through challenges in their life, which Jay described here at the very end, which is, things weren't always perfect for him, but he's found a way to create success through multiple challenges. Today, now he's making a difference, not just in his own life, but in many other people as well. So as we always like to say, wishing you the very best and measuring your success. Have a great day.